Persona 5 needs a fighting game, but I don't mean this kind of fighting game, rather something like this. Oh, wait, please don't click off, this was Minty's idea! Yes, Persona 4 Arena. Developed by Arc System Works and published by Atlus, this is easily one of the most popular spin-offs in the Persona franchise. From what was initially seen as just a fighting game with a Persona theme, it really did adapt itself properly to the genre. It has its own Persona mechanics, references to the game, and even follows the story of its most popular game at the time, Persona 4. The game is not just great for fans of the series, but also fighting game players, many of which speak pretty positively about how friendly it actually is for newcomers to the genre. Now, this is fancy and all, but I don't like fighting games. I tried everything I could to like this game, but I'm just not someone who likes to play traditional fighters. Now, if we're talking platform fighters, I still don't like them, but I play Smash Brothers. Persona 5 Arena is a game that's been tirelessly thrown around the Persona community. Heck, I'm not the first to make a production in regards to its potential, and for good reason. While P4A is not my cup of tea, it's undeniably an incredible concept. Have the cast from one of the most successful and flashy entries in the series into a fighting game, one where there's a larger focus towards combat too.
Shut up and take my money!
There's so much you can do with it, and I'm just as shocked Atlus hasn't done this yet. But why not do something even greater? I can't say how a P5 fighting game could work, but I am very knowledgeable when it comes to Smash Brothers, although a lot of people might disagree. So why not make a platform fighter instead? Not only would this be a brand new genre Atlus can tackle, there's actually just as, if not more, potential than a traditional fighting game for this to work. Not to mention it would stand out amongst a saturated market that is anime fighting games. And I think I have the perfect way to capitalize on that idea. Alright, so hear me out. I have zero sources to back me up on this, but here goes. What if Atlus is intentionally making us wait so they have enough of a big catalog in Persona 5 characters and spin-offs to fully use that to their advantage? Think about it. A proper send-off by utilizing every new character in these spin-offs, all the iconic tracks of said games, all wrapped up in a nice little package. That's right, we're making the Smash Brothers Ultimate of the Persona 5 brand. We're covering all the bases here. Roster, story, battle mechanics, all the works. This is our pitch for my P5 platform fighter, Persona 5 All-Stars. Before we start, I just want to say that if you're enjoying our productions or you want to see more Persona-related stuff from us, please be sure to press that subscribe button. And while you're at it, be sure to check out our Patreon to further help grow the channel. By the way, I just want to say that we're calling it All-Stars because that's just way cooler. Because, you know, stars are in Persona, and these are all the characters, so All-Stars. Let's get the first and hardest part out of the way. How will this game actually play? What, do I look like a game developer? Okay, in all seriousness, I did actually try my best at researching how these sorts of games work, and I'd say I came up with a pretty decent concept. Let's get the basics out of the way. Each character will have some basic attacks on ground and air along with a unique special move, mainly utilized for taking off stocks from your opponent. The twist here, however, is how we'll implement personas. Look at it like this. You guys know the hero from Smash Ultimate, right? No? Okay, well here's a brief recap. So Hero is a pretty simple but also very unique character. The way he works is that he has this little MP bar showing you how much of your magic skills you can utilize. Depending on the utility and how strong a spell is, it'll either be a small amount of MP or drain all of it. If you don't have any MP left with you, you practically can't do any of those powerful skills, let alone recover. So how do you regain it? Well, it's quite easy. Just keep hitting your opponent with more basic attacks like your tilts, aerials, and smash attacks. The more damage you deal, the more MP you gain back. The reason I'm saying all of this is because this is going to be a central mechanic in P5 All-Stars. Every character has an MP system more according to how they play in their respective game, with everyone's special moves being able to summon their persona and reference a specific skill they had. I was thinking on exactly how we can bring elements to the table, and honestly they can pretty much work just as bonuses or extras for what said skill can do. Morgana could focus on Garu, which can have more knockback but not as much damage, and can utilize Agi, which, while it has the ability to give small damage over time to the opponent, if you're attacking too close, it can hurt you as well. And Yusuke can have a small chance of slowing down an enemy with Bufu. Now, you may be saying already that this is too similar for Hero, and having several players with the same structure sounds boring, and you're right, because this is just a simple base for what's to come. One thing I really want this game to emphasize is how scarce obtaining SP will be. As you can tell, these special moves will utilize your persona and logically can be considered a little broken. They are your main ways to get kills after all. So how will you get this SP? I'm going to do a very unique take and say this game needs a combo system. Think of the lines of Devil May Cry. You have a small time window to make a chain of attacks against the enemy. The more creative, the higher your ranking on said combo will be. And by that logic, the higher you rank, the more SP you'll gain in the end. Here's a little demonstration I made with Smash. As you can see, doing a 2-hit combo gives you a D, while the more complex and unique it is, you can raise the letter more and more. The key here is to reward players for pushing themselves and coming up with new strategies to fight others. Considering this game will be very fast-paced with characters falling pretty fast and movement being very fluid, this can be pretty easy to achieve. There's a lot more than just the gameplay itself, however, so why don't we head to the next section, which is... It's the moment you've all been waiting for. Who's going to make it to the roster for this grand finale for Persona 5? All of them. I mean, it's named All-Stars for a reason, so you can tell we pretty much want every single P5 main character here. Specifically the ones who have the ability to summon a persona. That means our roster will include all of the Phantom Thieves, Sumi, Akechi, Zenkichi, Sophia, and this guy. I was hesitant on adding Maruki, but I guess for fun we can have him as a secret unlockable character. Anyone else like Yu Narukami, Makoto Yuki, or any of the characters from the past games will remain as DLC, and we'll get to those in a moment. For now, I just want to go over a few of the archetypes I managed to make. While I made one for just about everyone in the base roster, here are some of the ones I enjoyed making the most. Let's start with Joker. While he's definitely going to have a more all-rounder kind of character, he is in fact going to play much more differently than his Smash counterpart. For one, he's going to be able to use multiple personas. Not only will you have the option to use Arsene, but we'll be able to switch between him, Pixie, and Jack Frost. These two are some of the most iconic and popular choices fans have made, so it only makes sense for him to have them. Other than that, he's really the Mario of the roster. He's good at doing combos with the aerials and has a decent amount of SP to use. Mona can be a small damage dealer and quite floaty, but can use his high recovery, the best one in the roster, to edge guard opponents. And Wolf is a heavy sword fighter with incredible range. He also has a move where he takes more damage and is more likely to be launched, but this does apply to opponents as well. These are just a couple of the many concepts that I could come up with for this roster. In any case, why don't we go into the story and see how a single player campaign could work. So to put it simply, we just go inside palaces of the characters on the roster. Hold on, let me explain. So since this is essentially a sequel from the events of Strikers, the characters are much older now. We're talking as old as how the P3 cast was in Persona 4 Arena. Not only will this give us brand new material to work with, we also finally get to see what the Phantom Thieves have been up to after so long now. Anne could be a famous supermodel now, Makoto is doing super well in college and we get to see what she chose to study, Yusuke has now grown a small but loyal community through his art. The goal here is while everything looks good from the outside, with adulthood they received new problems under the surface that they need to overcome. Some of which have become so bad for the Phantom Thieves, they became full-blown palaces through these new problems. So it's up to you and Morgana to solve what's going on with your team. However, as you progress, you get to see some old friends come back, those being Zenkichi and Sophia. How is this happening? Why are they here? Well, quite easy. These can act as cognitions or memories the Phantom Thieves have of them, sort of a feeling of nostalgia per se. Plus, it's probably the best and only way we can have characters like Akechi and Sophia come back without retconning their development. I can already imagine a million comments telling me their problems with this entire plot, but let me just say this. I really want this game to be within the boundaries of the Phantom Thieves. I don't want to have SEEs or the investigation team appear because ultimately it'll only make the story a lot more convoluted and we won't have our main thieves in the spotlight as much. The goal of this entire story is to really make it feel like a true celebration for the cast. Give them one last goodbye and just reflect on how far they've made it. It definitely has the same intentions as the third semester arc, with the thieves standing their ground on the development they had. However, the twist here is the added context that they're grown adults all going through brand new challenges. Adding that new perspective and material can really make these characters feel even more realistic than they were already. Plus, come on, the idea of having actual shadows of the Phantom Thieves is too good to give up. We had it in Strikers, but let's really make this part of the main conflict. This is, in my opinion, the absolute best direction that they could possibly take for this kind of story. As for the gameplay for this story mode, I'd love to see a blend of what made Subspace Emissary in Brawl and World of Light in Ultimate so great. Here's how I imagine it. When going through each of the members' palaces, you do some platforming like it was a 2D platformer. You can fight enemies, find chests and secret rooms around the area, and once you get into the mini or main bosses, those turn into a 1v1 or unique fight against them. This will of course continue developing the story, and you'll be able to use more personas outside of the ones the thieves can use. Personas will behave sort of how spirits do in Smash Ultimate. You can equip them more so for stat increases and boost your damage or defense. In order to get them, enemies on the map will appear as you progress. If you approach one and hit it, it becomes a randomly generated fight with a shadow enemy. Once you beat it, it has a random chance to give you a persona, which you can fuse them for stronger ones. You will need these for later sections of the game. It's such a simple concept, but it works flawlessly, and if people really want to, they can equip said personas for local battles. Last thing I want to talk about is the DLC. This is where things get very interesting, and as you can guess, this is where I'll have the older casts appear. I know I just said a moment ago that I don't want the P4 and 3 casts to appear, but hear me out. What if we make DLC packs where it's not only around 3 to 5 new characters, but a full side campaign alongside it? The idea just sells itself. You could have a DLC pack where it has the Phantom Thieves interacting with the investigation team. The story doesn't need to be anything deep, just something for these two to interact. You get to play the new characters in said campaign, see how they play, fight enemies, and once you fully beat the campaign, you unlock the characters for your roster. Here's my concept for a Persona 3 and 4 bundle. For P3, we have Makoto Yuki, Aigis, and possibly Yukari or Mitsuru. I feel like these 3 characters best represent the game, and you can definitely have some interesting movesets with these. Makoto Yuki will play like Joker with his whole wild card ability, but with different personas this time. Yukari can be a perfect zoner thanks to her bow, and Aigis can be a rushdown and fast-paced sort of character. As for P4, I went with Yu Narukami, Rise, and Teddy. Yu, again, just another wild card with an emphasis on spacing and using his sword. Rise can take heavy inspiration from her arena iteration for reference, and Teddy can be a bit of a floaty multi-hit attacker. And just in case we weren't crazy enough, why not do a DLC pack for P5X, which would have Wonder, Cattle, and Closer? I highly ever doubt that this would happen, but it's pretty neat to see X acknowledged in a spin-off. But yeah, that's pretty much my entire list for what I'd like to see in All-Stars. Now, I know what many people are going to tell me. I know this game is very unlikely to happen. Even against all the odds, Joker's in Smash Bros. Ultimate, so there's no real reason for them to make a platform fighter, right? I just want to make clear that I simply want this kind of game to exist because I love Persona 5. I said it many times in the past, but Persona 5 is a very special game to me. Not only is it one of the most successful, but it's still to this day one of the most popular entries in the franchise. Even with Reload out, I still feel like Persona 5 just has a much more loyal and dedicated following than 3 does. It's been a game that even after 7 years, it's still getting so much praise to this day. Persona 5 All-Stars would not just be a spin-off, it would be meant to represent its history and all the ups and downs we've gone through. And what better way to finalize its legacy than with a full celebration like this one? We get to see the characters grow more, have more struggles to overcome, and brings in every character from the spin-offs together. In a time where people are desperately and eagerly waiting for Persona 6, and just tired of 5, I think a game like this is what people need. Something to remember what made 5 so special in the first place and give them that proper closure. In a way, it does hurt me having to see 5 no longer being the big shiny game it used to be. You can say I'm a little scared for what's going to happen to Persona. But whatever the case is, even through some of its hard times, Persona 5 will always remain one of the best games Atlus has ever made. And I'm more than excited to see what will be their next move. This is Akari from MIntjoy Pictures. That or they can milk Persona 5 for all it's worth because I'll still buy the games regardless.